Rebel Force Radio presents
Star Wars Cantina.
Where are you going, Master?
For a drink.
Sorry about the mess.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
All right, we are so fortunate to be joined by one of the stars of the Star Wars Clone Wars series. He's the man of many, many voices. It's the same voice, but many, many characters. Thank you so much, Dee Bradley Baker, the voice of all the clones, like Captain Rex.
It's my pleasure to be here with you, boys.
Oh, that's the best.
That was it.
That's the best. Some of you, some voice actors, they don't like pulling it out. It's like, asking, Olivier to rip into some Shakespeare or something. I know when he's at a dinner party, but you're not shy with that. I like that.
I think many of us voiceover actors, I think we're just show-offs, and we love to do that kind of stuff. I think it's fun to do.
Very cool.
Voice actors they're always great to have at parties because you never know who will suddenly show up at the party.
Yeah, we're kind of this sort of invisible super weapon you can kind of pull out, and suddenly you're entertained with a voice or something.
Well, in addition to his voices on the Clone Wars, Dee is also currently starring as Mooch in G-Force, which is out in theaters right now.
Yeah, I gotta go see that. That's the voice of the fly, the kind of the fly reconnaissance sidekick arthropod to the guinea pigs. But I always gotta go see it to make sure that they use what I did, because I can never be sure until I hear it with my own ears.
And if this voice sounds familiar, you've heard him in a lot of stuff. I got to tell you, I was really geeking out, Dee, when I was reading some of your credits. Some of my all-time favorite cartoons, like Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, Samurai Jack, Justice League, SpongeBob SquarePants, Teen Titans. You played Cinderblock on Teen Titans, Spectacular Spider-Man, Ben 10, Alien Force, Batman, Brave and the Bold, Family Guy, American Dad. I mean, it's a real what's what of some of the best in animation. How did you get started with a career in voiceover work?
It started about 4 decades ago when I just started performing and acting as a kid, doing ventriloquism and plays and musicals and even operas at my school and at the local university in my hometown of Greeley, Colorado. And I performed in some kind of a play or show of some kind almost every year of my life, except for just a couple of years, I think. And after college, I never studied or acting. I always just did it. And then once I got out of college, I did a lot of different performing gigs, just about everything that you could legally do, and everything that was fun. And improv and stand-up sort of bent me towards doing odd voices and characters and sounds, and that sort of opened up the way to eventually falling into voice acting, which is a great career. It's great fun. It's a great variety of things that you get to do as an actor, and plus it's air-conditioned. You don't have to memorize your lines, and you don't have to sit in a trailer all week.
I was thinking about that, Dee, when I was going over your list of credits. I mean, to be an actor that's on screen, you don't typically get the variety of work as voice actors do. And also the longevity, I think, of the career is, can be enhanced.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's something that you can do. I mean, as an on-camera actor, there's often a window of where you're cute or where you look like the mom or where you look, as some sort of castable archetype that everybody's into right now. But with voice acting, especially if you've got some range, you can do that really for as long as you want, for decades and decades. And in addition, it allows so that you can work multiple gigs at a time, and it doesn't really take away from the others. Whereas, you can't do like 5 sitcoms at a time on camera, but with voice acting, you can do as many as you can get.
But yet the voiceover field is a very difficult community to break through. What was your first big gig?
My first My first kind of professional gig was a game show called Legends of the Hidden Temple for Nickelodeon, where I did the voice of a character called Olmec, standing behind a giant rock face, this rock god saying Legends of the Hidden Temple and moving the mouth. And then from that, I came out here to Los Angeles, and my first series was Cow and Chicken for the old Hanna-Barbera. And, I learned a lot
Oh my
from
gosh!
Candy
yes.
Milo and Charlie Adler, and it was really, that was my first big television series, and then from there I got on Space Jam, where I did Daffy Duck and Taz, the movie with Michael Jordan.
Right.
And that just kind of continued to filter into a greater variety of work, and just kept going until now.
Awesome. Now, you had previously worked with Dave Filoni on Avatar, right?
Yeah, I got to say that's one of my very favorite shows. I mean, there are a lot of similarities, I think, between Avatar and Star Wars, or even Lord of the Rings, where you've got this really interesting, epic storyline that's punctuated with a lot of humor and these characters that you really care about. But it's also got a lot of action, and there's a lot of that, and there's a magical fantasy element too. But I really loved Avatar. We did 3 seasons of it, and they're making a feature now, and I'd sure love to be a part of that if they asked me to.
It would be nice to work with Jim Cameron, wouldn't it?
No, this is a different Avatar, actually. This is
really?
James Cameron's Avatar is a whole different thing. He had a copyright on the title before the Nickelodeon series Avatar came to be. So the movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan, based on the Nickelodeon animated series, I think is called The Last Airbender.
Wow. You know what? All my fanboy cred just went right down the toilet with that one simple
I'm so sorry.
James Cameron. I just went down like Titanic. Another James Cameron reference.
I'd love to work with James Cameron too, but I'm hoping and praying that the live action feature film is as good as I've seen just a few things, some teasers on the web that look like the visual style that's suggested from the animated series, and that looks great. And I'd sure love to be able to do the voices of Appa and Momo and any other creatures they want, because that show meant a lot to me.
Has Dave changed much from the Avatar days to Dave Filoni? I'm talking about to Clone Wars, Dee?
I can't really imagine that he has. I didn't know him really well. I think I'd met him during the Avatar days, but now I see him every time we go in to record. He's a great guy to work with. He loves and he trusts the talent. He's really good about explaining the storyline to us, and he trusts us and we trust him. It's a really good working relationship and a real pleasure to work with him. And I think it really shines in the vocal performances that he gets for the series, because I think it's I'm not just tooting my own horn, but the cast is an excellent ensemble, and their work and their expertise really shines. I think if you watch the series as it evolves and as it continues to get better and richer, and the characters become more interesting, it really is. It is a top-notch show that I think people are really starting to wake up to. And wait till they see the second season. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the trailer.
Oh yes,
for the season 2 of the Clone Wars,
yes.
It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
It gave me goosebumps when I saw it. It was the first time I saw it at Comic-Con, and it's very exciting to me.
That's amazing. How did you get involved with the Clone Wars? Was it your relationship with Filoni working on Avatar, or did you go and audition? What got you to the attention of the producers of the Clone Wars?
Well, they had an audition, and Dave Filoni knew me, and also at the time Andrea Romano, who's one of the very best voice directors and casting directors in town. They called me in to audition for it. And I just read it, and I read for the clones, and they liked what I did, and I think it didn't hurt that both Dave and Andrea also did the voice directing on Avatar, that they knew that I'm familiar with the feel of that kind of show, and I think they had an idea of my range and my abilities, and that helped too, because I think for this show, I mean, they're looking not just for a sound alike, because there was precious little to go off of from the first 3 feature films, but they needed somebody who can flesh these characters out, these soldiers, these heroes, these individuals, and to make them feel like they are each individuals and not just carbon copies of each other. And that's hopefully what we've attained, particularly like in the Rookies episode, where it's mostly just clones talking to each other. And we worked very hard to try to make that feel like these guys are all different rank, they're different status, they're different feel, different energy, and that's really what makes that that little lifeboat of a story, I think, compelling, and hopefully that's what we did.
I'm glad you brought that up, that specific episode, because that's when it really jumped out to me that, oh my God, this is the same guy doing the voice of all these individuals, yet giving them different inflections, but using the same voice. You had 2 clone troopers talking about the planet Tabrin. One pronounced it Tabrin, and one pronounced it Tibrin. And it was just that little change in inflection that gave these guys their individuality. Because here in the real world, there are many words that people pronounce, like Route 66. A lot of people say route. I mean, it just gives you that sense of individuality.
Well, that's really good perception on your part, because that's really what we try to do. The idea being that the clones all start off in the same incubator, so to speak, but once they're released out into the galaxy, they've got different masters, they've got different Jedi they're working with, different planets, and it only makes sense that they start to vary how they speak and how their words are expressed or how they pronounce something. So that's definitely something that we're going for, and I'm glad that you noticed that you're listening that carefully, because we're working at it that hard.
And it must make you feel good to know that Rookies is really a fan favorite. That was really probably, we do the Clone Wars Roundtable every week when the season is going on. And so it's real easy for me to gauge fan reaction. And I can tell you, Rookies was the first episode that really kind of got across the board fan acceptance. So that must mean a lot to you.
I'm thrilled to hear that, because I don't really have a gauge on that kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen the episodes, and that one might be my personal favorite. And I can't tell if it's just because I'm so proud of what we did, but I really like the story, and I think they really took a lot of chances with that story, because I think before this series, what made Star Wars, or the first 3 movies compelling, is the story of Obi-Wan and Anakin and all the rest of the main characters, but certainly not that of the clones. And to write an entire episode that is only these characters that were really kind of off to the side, I think was taking a big chance. And one of the reasons I think it really pays off, to my mind, is that these guys are not superheroes. They're super well-trained soldiers, but they don't have the Force. They don't have a laser weapon. These guys are soldiers. They're much more vulnerable, to my mind, and much more human in some ways. And so that episode in particular really pays off, because they're really in danger, and the clones don't always make it through an episode, so you don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah,
so I'm really glad that the fans like that episode in particular, because I'm very, very proud of that one.
Well done.
Let me ask you, one of the I was mentioning this on a previous show, that Family Guy will sometimes do like a live performance of an episode, and one of the things that really blew me away was watching Seth MacFarlane do multiple characters in conversation with each other. Then I thought of you. Not only are you doing that, but you're doing the same voice, which in my mind would be more difficult to keep the characterizations different. Take us behind the scenes of a recording session. Do you, when you're doing conversations with amongst the clones, do you record that in order, or do you take all the lines of clone 1? You know what I mean? How does that work?
Yeah. No, that's an excellent question. And it varies depending on the scene or depending on the script. Some scripts, what the clones are doing is incidental enough that we can just go straight through it, and I can jump from clone to clone. Some episodes, like Rookies, for instance, the clones are more front and center, and you've got a much more decisive, involved character in at least a few of these clones that we want to keep separate. And we may go through once just with the cast and just take a run at it, just so we can get done what they do, and then we go back and record each of the separate clones straight through alone, so that we make sure that the adjustment is clear and the continuity maintains throughout the rest of the script. So it's done in different ways, just depending on just the level of involvement or the importance of the distinction of the clones in that particular episode.
So what's a Dee Bradley Baker blooper like? Do you sometimes forget which clone you're doing at a given moment, or?
Yeah. I have to. Normally, what I do is I go through and I might give each clone an adjective, like gruff or technician or officer or mechanic or just something that conjures up an image to me and that I can just kind of use to lock back into it. And it might be that I've either mismarked it or I'm just getting confused in going through the scene, and suddenly you've got the wrong one saying the wrong words. It's not that spectacular of a mess up, but we have to stop it and redo it.
Right.
So who's the biggest cut up in the studio when you guys are recording this stuff? I think it might have been Ashley Eckstein who pointed the finger in your direction. What do you think about that? Yeah, you know what I'm talking.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we're a fun bunch, to be sure, and and we have a lot of fun in the sessions. In fact, I would probably pay money to have the sessions just kind of recorded and put together, because we have a lot of fun. And the Star Wars and these stories are they're pretty much very straight ahead action stories, and so in the studio, of course, we're going to cut against that and get a lot wackier on it. but that's just us having fun and maintaining the energy of the room and the camaraderie of doing the show. Because in a lot of ways, it's like doing a radio drama or even a play, where you are going straight through the story on most episodes with most, if not all, of the cast. And there's some stopping and starting as you redo scenes or redo takes, and so you need to keep that energy up, and that's part of how we do it is messing around. But I don't know who's the number one jester in the group, but I know I mess around an awful lot just because it's
there we go. Partial confession from Dee Bradley Baker. Now, let me ask you this. Ashley admits to using a pencil as a prop for when she's swinging a lightsaber around. Do you find yourself in a similar situation behind the mic where you're grabbing a relatively normal household item and using it as a blaster or something?
I don't think I pick up pencils and all, but you certainly, I mean, you pretty much got to keep your mouth in a fairly small zone so that the microphone can pick up what your performance is. But you do have some leeway with good engineers like we've got at LA Studios, and we're able to use bodies to do a body block or to do a punch or to point or to do something that adds emphasis to the performance. And you do want to do that because it does feel like a physical performance when you're performing it. I'm not always aware of what I'm doing, so I don't know exactly what it is that I'm doing, but I do know that we do like to do it.
We put out on Twitter here that we were going to have you in the studio, and we got a couple of questions here from some listeners. This comes from Indy Jones 45. He says, Dee, could you tell us a favorite Star Wars memory that you have at the studio? So is there a certain memory or something that you look back really fondly in working on season 1, or it could be, I guess, season 2 too?
It was really, I got to say, just in terms of our series, it was really thrilling to go to the premiere of the feature film that they put up. That was really thrilling. I don't get to do a lot of movie premieres. I do some work in feature films, like you said, like in G-Force right now, but they usually don't invite a voice actor. I mean, in fact, they didn't want to invite the voice actors to the premiere of Space Jam. So it's I wish I were kidding about that.
Oh my gosh.
It's a treat to just to go there and with all the cameras and the red carpet and to see what you did up on the big screen. That's a lot of fun. But maybe more importantly for me, it's just fun to watch the show with my 9-year-old and to I can't believe that I'm there on this show and part of this universe. And then my kid is watching it to boot, and it's that's an incredible thrill. Just a thrill.
And Dee, you have a 9-year-old boy?
I got a 9-year-old tomboy and a 4-year-old princess. Hello to little Cora and hello to Big Josie. I love you. And
you're raising them as Star Wars fans, so you're doing the job right.
That's right.
Now, when you think back to their age, were you a Star Wars fan as a kid?
Oh yeah, you didn't get to that part of the story. After Episode 4 was released, my mom and dad made me a Jawa costume for Halloween, and then the summer after the original release of Episode 4, it was re-released because it did so well, and a local movie theater hired me and my Jawa costume to scare people. As they showed it, and they paid me in movie passes, and I could watch Star Wars Episode 4 all summer long.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. What a dream job. The dream job for a kid. And now you're a voice actor. Were you doing the Jawa voice underneath the cloak?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
And that sounded like what?
Oh my gosh!
Oh man!
It really scared the crap out of people there because it had the little glowing red eyes that my dad hooked up with a little battery pack that was attached to a small Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he detached it from that and plugged it into these little red lights that he put over my eyes. I was wearing like a black pantyhose in my head. Had this really great little Jawa tunic thing that my mom made up for me. It looked really very good. I've got a picture of it somewhere. But it was just the best job ever. Just so fun.
That's cool. Awesome. That is awesome. So you are an original generation Star Wars fan now working on Star Wars. How cool is that?
Yeah, no, I can't even describe it. It doesn't even seem real because I was really, I can't tell you how I was really into these shows. I mean, before I remember the original Time magazine issue that came out, it was on the cover, had this big article in the middle of it that I just went nuts over. I went and bought the book. I read the book. I read all the reviews. I'd read all that stuff before I even saw the movie.
Wow. So cool. So cool. Now, there's some other Star Wars connections here with you, Dee.
Yeah.
You did some voiceover work in a Star Wars video game, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy.
Yeah.
And also played the voice of Dark Helmet in the Spaceballs animated series.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's Star Wars all through you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I got to work with Mel Brooks and Joan Rivers, and that it was just to work with those people of that caliber who are just so. I mean, they're just absolute forces of nature. They're just so fun and so funny. That was really a treat too. It's an utterly different project. It really hardly has anything to do with Star Wars, really. It doesn't sound like it, doesn't look like it. It really, it's just completely different. But it was that was certainly a lot of fun. I've done a lot of the games too. They're cranking up more and more, and I got to say I was really knocked out with the trailer of the next one that's coming out. I can't remember what it's called.
Republic Heroes. Republic Heroes coming out, the new Clone Wars game?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're showing trailers for it at Comic-Con, and people were asking me about it. They're saying, which movie is that? I said, that's not a movie, that's a game. And they're arguing with me, saying, no, that's not. I say, yes, it is. It looks that good. It looks like a feature film. It looks that fantastic.
So you all
got to play that.
So all you guys get together and do the game voices as well, right?
Yeah, I've done a number of them so far. I can't even keep track of them. There was an educational one right across from where we were signing at Comic-Con, and that it goes on any platform you want, I think.
Wow, so cool. Now, Jimmy, you were talking about rookies, and my favorite episode of the season, personally, I think, I don't know, I go back and forth on this all the time, but one of my favorites, I'm such a Yoda fan, is Ambush. And I love the scene in the cave with the clones and Yoda. Were you actually in the studio with Tom when you did that, or was that something you did with a recording? Do you remember?
At this point, I can't remember, but I think we might have been in the studio together.
Yeah. So as a Star Wars fan, working with a character as iconic as Yoda, that's got to be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable to be working with these iconic characters in this universe and giving them kind of a new lease on life, hopefully, and a whole new fan base and a new generation of kids, and hopefully older, that will connect into it. I mean, I got to say, I know a lot of grown-ups, that is, people with kids and all, who come up to me and they say, this show is really terrific. I really like it. My friend Clancy Brown, who does on-camera and voiceovers a lot, he just goes on and on about how much he really loves the show, and it's a really great one to watch with the kids because, you've got good, you've got evil, you've got the heroes, you've got, making the tough choices, and it's a great springboard to talk about all kinds of things with a kid. It's an excellent show for family, I think.
And another one of those episodes that across the board fan favorite is Ambush. I mean, that was really, that really got the series off to a jump start, full throttle. And again, a scene with Tom doing one character, a character we all know and really could never possibly imagine anyone other than Frank Oz voicing. And then you doing three characters in that cave scene is what I'm thinking of. I mean, it was just such a powerful scene. And they used John Williams' Yoda theme underneath it all to give it that real Star Wars oxygen. And it was just one of those moments where you say, yes, Star Wars has come to TV and I'm loving it. And you nailed all the different voices. You really gave them different personalities, same voice, different personality. What an incredible feat.
It's a really beautiful scene, and it's one of the nice things that they do, that a depth that the story writers and Dave give this show is that they will take time to sit down and do a scene like that. It's not just action. It's scenes that have humor. It's scenes that have action, but also you've got a scene that has a kind of heart or even a kind of spirit, like that scene with Yoda and the clones, where they're taking off their helmets and it's almost like a little service that he's holding with them, talking about what they need to do in their life and who they are, and giving them a real gem of a suggestion that's just tailor-made, dead-on right for each one of them. That's very different for each one of them too, and it's really to the credit of the show. And I think what really makes it a really interesting show is that they're able to do scenes like that, where it's not just breakneck action, but there's the spirit and the comedy and as well as the action.
Dee, one of the things that as watchers of this show and fans that we have a hard time, I think, coming to or having a hard time remembering is that you guys aren't necessarily recording these shows in order. So unless you're really watching them, you don't get a sense of the trajectory of the series.
No, not at all.
But can you tell us? We heard a lot at Comic-Con about the tone, the tenor of the series in season 2 is getting a little darker, a little more mature. Are you feeling that in the recording sessions?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't, of course, speak on specifics, but I do say that there are more characters. It's more involved, and I think there's a lot more action. There's a lot more of everything, and I think they've kind of got their confidence up. They're seeing what they can do. They've established what they've got and what works, and they're going to move out from that. And as I said before, the trailer that they just put together, that they premiered, I think, on Comic-Con, that you can see now online. In fact, I just hunted it down this morning. That gives you a good indication that they're they're going to move into, they're going to bring in more characters, more action, and it's also going to look even better. And they continue to refine the expressiveness of the characters, the design and the layout, and all the different creatures and ships and all that they bring into it. I mean, they're really moving out with it in a way it gave me goosebumps to see it, because I hadn't seen any of that. I don't see most of it. I don't see it until it airs on television. So it's going to be more of everything that you've liked and seen so far.
Well, Dee, I got one last question here for you. We want to thank you so much for being on the program. And
yeah,
I don't know if I should ask you or if I should ask Captain Rex, but I hear that in season 2 we're going to meet some Mandalorians, and I got to ask you, who wins in a fight, a clone or a Mandalorian?
Well, I'm sorry, but if I answer a question like that, I might short-circuit some of your interest in the episodes that are upcoming. But all these questions will be answered in season 2. I guarantee it.
Awesome. Oh, Dee Bradley Baker, love it. The great Dee Bradley Baker. Thank you so much for being on the program. We appreciate it very much.
It's a pleasure and an honor, and a hello to all the fans out there who are supporting this show and who are waking up to what a great show it is. I don't think you'll be disappointed with what is revealed in season 2.
When I got to tell you, Dee, that you might not have gotten a seat at that Space Jam premiere or whatever, but you guys, and I mean this, are truly real stars in the Star Wars universe as far as the fans are concerned. You guys are bringing life to these characters, and I dare say in some cases more life than some of the live action work. So our hats are off to you.
I appreciate it. It's very kind of you. We certainly we want to do that. We want to serve the story and the universe and the fans.
Well, thank you so much, Dee, and we really appreciate your talent. It certainly is up to the standards that Star Wars and Lucasfilm has presented us up to this point, and you're adding to that and building onto the saga and the tradition that is Star Wars. So it's a pleasure to talk to you.
I appreciate it. Lots of fun. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care now. Wow.
What a nice guy. What a nice guy.
Super nice guy. Everybody we've met so far through the Clone Wars has been awesome. They
have put together one great crew, from Dave Filoni to Ashley to Matt to everyone involved with the series.
Yeah, and
a bunch of great people.
So, well, that's going to do it for this edition of In the Cantina. Once again, big thanks to our buddy Josh at Lucasfilm and arranging this interview with the great Dee Bradley Baker, the voice of Captain Rex and all the clones. And Jim, I was trying to think of some of the other voices he's done on the Clone Wars, and I had to cheat. I looked up on IMDb. We've got I'm going to butcher this name, Robonino. And
Robinino.
Robinino. Okay, and I don't remember who that is. That was in Hostage Crisis, and of course, Anaconda Farr.
The Rodian.
The Rodian. Right. Uncle Anno.
Robinino is part of Cad Bane's crew. He's that little fishy-looking dude.
Oh, right. Wait a minute, I'm getting confused. It's not Uncle Anno, is it? Is that the same character, the Rodian senator?
Yes,
it's the same character.
Anaconda Farr.
Right. Okay, I thought so.